My fiancé's family demanded I sign a prenup protecting their money, but I was the one with family wealth. Tessa's parents owned a catering company in the suburbs. Her mom drove a BMW. Her dad wore Rolexes. At our engagement dinner, her father slid the prenup across the table like it was routine. Just standard protection, he said. I didn't mention that my trust fund could buy their business 3 times over. My family believed in discretion. Old money doesn't announce itself. I'd met Tessa at a community college where I was taking ceramics classes for fun. She assumed I worked retail because I drove a 12-year-old Honda. I never corrected her. After 3 years together, I'd planned to tell her everything after the wedding. Then came that dinner. Her mother kept emphasizing how hard they'd worked for everything, how they couldn't risk their daughter's future on someone with no prospects. Tessa sat silently, picking at her salmon. I signed the prenup that night. It protected every dollar of their $2.3 million net worth from me. My attorney nearly had a stroke when I showed him. "You're worth $43 million, he said. The wedding cost them $85,000. They made sure everyone knew. Her father gave a speech about his little girl marrying for love, not money. I watched my parents in the crowd. Their combined net worth around $900 million, politely applauding. Mom squeezed my hand. She knew. The first year was fine. Tessa got promoted at the marketing firm her uncle owned. Her parents bought us kitchen appliances, making pointed comments about how young couples struggle financially. I kept working my bookstore job, kept living in our small apartment. Then Tessa got pregnant. Her parents immediately started planning. They'd buy us a house. Nothing fancy, just a modest 3-bedroom in their neighborhood. The mortgage would be in their names for our protection. Her father pulled me aside. "You should be grateful," he said. That night I told Tessa everything, showed her my trust statements, my investment portfolios, the foundation my grandmother established. She went completely white. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered. She called her parents immediately. Within an hour they were at our apartment. Her father's face was purple. "You manipulated our daughter," he shouted. "I signed your prenup," I said calmly. Her mother started crying about how I'd humiliated them, made them pay for everything when I could have contributed. "You never asked me to contribute," I pointed out. "You insisted on paying." Finally, her father said, "If you had any decency, you'd give us back everything we spent." I looked at Tessa. She was watching me with an expression I'd never seen before. "Actually," I said, reaching for my phone, "I've been keeping track." I showed them my spreadsheet. Every dinner, every gift, the wedding. $847,329 total. "I'll write you a check right now," I said, "with interest. That brings it to $891,654. The room went dead silent. "Of course," I continued, "there's the prenup. Since you insisted on protecting your assets from me, I'll need to protect mine too." I pulled out a postnuptial agreement my attorney had prepared. Fair is fair. Her parents left speechless. The next morning, Tessa's father called. His voice was different, smaller. "We need to talk," he said. "The company is having some issues. We might need a loan," I finished. "How much?" The silence stretched. Then he named a figure that would bankrupt them without help. "I'll think about it," I said, and hung up. 3 days passed. Tessa barely spoke to me. She'd moved into the guest room, claiming the pregnancy made her need space. I let her have it. On the 4th morning, I found her crying at the kitchen table, holding her phone. "What's wrong?" I asked. She looked up. Her eyes were red and swollen. "My dad called. They're going to lose everything. The house, the business, all of it." I poured myself coffee and sat down across from her. "Tell me what happened." The story came out in pieces. Her father had been embezzling from client deposits to fund their lifestyle. The BMW, the Rolexes, the wedding that cost more than most people's houses. He'd been running a scheme for 7 years, always staying one event ahead of the bills. Then a major corporate client had canceled their annual gala. The dominoes started falling. "How much does he actually need?" I asked. $1.7 million, Tessa whispered, plus legal fees, maybe $2.2 million total. I sipped my coffee. The number was nothing to me, pocket change. But this wasn't about money anymore. "And your mother? What does she say?" "She's been calling me nonstop, saying you owe us, that we made you family, gave you everything, and now you're abandoning us when we need help." "Gave me everything," I repeated. "Like that prenup protecting their $2.3 million from me?" Tessa flinched. I know how it looks, but they're my parents. They're going to jail if someone doesn't help them." I stood up and walked to the window. Our apartment overlooked a park. I'd specifically chosen this place because it reminded me of the gardens at my family's estate. Tessa had always thought I rented it because it was all I could afford. "I'll help them," I said finally. Tessa's head snapped up. "You will?" "On one condition." Her face fell. "What condition?" I turned to face her. "You need to decide right now who you are. Are you the woman who sat silently while her parents insulted me for 3 years? Or are you the woman I thought I married?" She stood up, shaking. "That's not fair. They're my family. I'm your family now," I said quietly. "Or I'm supposed to be. But you've spent 4 days crying over their problems without once asking how I feel about being lied to for 3 years. About signing that prenup. About watching them parade around like they were doing us favors while treating me like charity. You lied too," she shot back. "You never told me about your money. You never asked. Your parents assumed I was poor and you believed them. I drive a Honda, Tessa, not a Bentley. I work in a bookstore because I like it, not because I have to. The difference is, I never made you feel small for it." She sank back into her chair. "What do you want from me? I want you to be there when I meet with your father. I want you to hear the terms. And then I want you to support me or we're done." That afternoon, I called my father-in-law back. "We'll meet tomorrow. My office. 2 p.m. "Your office?" He sounded confused. I gave him the address of my family's wealth management firm. The building was downtown, 43 stories of glass and steel with our name on it. My father-in-law had probably driven past it 1,000 times, never knowing I had an office on the top floor. The next day, Tessa and I arrived first. My attorney was already there, along with my father's CFO and 2 other financial advisors. Tessa looked around the corner office with its view of the entire city, at the original artwork on the walls, at the mahogany furniture that cost more than her parents' wedding budget. "This is yours?" she asked quietly. "My grandfather's originally. I inherited it when I turned 25. Her parents arrived 15 minutes late. Her father was sweating despite the air conditioning. Her mother clutched her purse like a life raft. They both froze when they saw the room, the people waiting, the panoramic windows. "Please, sit," I said, gesturing to the chairs across from my desk. They sat. Tessa stood beside me. I'd asked her to, and surprisingly, she had agreed. "Let's talk about your situation," I began. "My team has reviewed the documents you sent over. The embezzlement, the client deposits, the IRS audit you've been avoiding for 3 years. Her father's face went white. "How did you—" "I'm rich," I said simply. "Very rich. Rich enough to have excellent investigators, rich enough to have excellent attorneys, and rich enough to make all of this disappear." Her mother leaned forward. "So, you'll help us? I'll pay off everything. The $1.7 million in client deposits, the $380,000 in back taxes, the $220,000 in legal fees, all of it." They both exhaled. Her father actually started crying. "However," I continued, "there are terms." I slid a folder across the desk. "First, you will sign over 51% of your company to me. The business will be restructured. New management, new accounting. You'll both keep your jobs, but you'll answer to my CFO. Her father's head snapped up. "You're taking my company?" "I'm saving it," I corrected. "And you should be grateful." The words hung in the air, the same words he'd used on me about the house they wanted to buy us. "Second, you will make a public apology. To your clients, to your employees, and to your family. You'll admit what you did, express genuine remorse, and commit to making it right." Her mother was shaking. "Everyone will know. Everyone already knows," I said. "Your clients filed complaints. The courts have records. This way you control the narrative. You show integrity, or what's left of it. And third," I said looking at Tessa, "you will apologize to your daughter. You'll tell her the truth about why you pushed that prenup so hard, why you insisted on paying for everything, why you were so desperate to appear generous." Her father's jaw tightened. "I don't know what you mean." I opened another folder. "You were already in debt when Tessa and I got engaged. You used the wedding as a tax write-off through your business. Every gift you gave us was technically a business expense. You weren't being generous. You were committing fraud." Tessa grabbed the edge of my desk. "Dad?" He wouldn't look at her. "It's more complicated than that." "Actually, it's very simple," I said. "You used your daughter's wedding to steal from your clients and the IRS. And when I told Tessa about my money, your first thought wasn't happiness for her. It was how to extract it from me." "That's not true," her mother protested weakly. I pulled out my phone and played a voicemail. Her father's voice filled the room. "We need to be smart about this. Get him to put assets in Tessa's name before the baby comes. Once he does, we can—" I stopped the recording. Tessa's face crumpled. "You were planning to what? Divorce me? Take his money?" "We were protecting you," her mother said. "He lied to you about who he was." "No," Tessa said, her voice stronger now. "He just didn't correct your assumptions. You're the ones who lied. To me, to your clients, to everyone." I stood up. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign these papers. You're going to make that apology. And you're going to get therapy, both of you, to figure out why you're like this. My CFO will oversee the restructuring of your company. You'll keep your salaries, which will be reduced to reasonable levels. And you'll spend the next decade paying back every penny through garnished wages and oversight." "And if we refuse?" her father asked. "Then I'll let the district attorney handle it. The evidence is already compiled. You'll both go to prison for 7 to 10 years. Your clients will sue you into oblivion, and you'll lose everything anyway, just without my help." The room went silent except for the sound of her mother crying. "How long do we have to decide?" her father asked. "You don't. Sign now, or I walk." He signed. They both did. Their hands shook so badly the signatures were barely legible. After they left, Tessa and I stood alone in the office. The sun was setting over the city, painting everything gold. "I'm sorry," she said finally, "for all of it. For not defending you, for believing them about who you were, for not seeing what they were doing." I turned to look at her. "Are you apologizing because you mean it, or because I just saved your parents from prison?" "Both," she admitted. "Is that okay?" I considered this. "I don't know yet." We drove home in silence. That night, Tessa stayed in the guest room again. I lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made the right choice. The money meant nothing to me, but trust? That was expensive. The next morning, I found a note on the kitchen counter. Tessa had gone to stay with her college roommate for a few days. She needed space to think. I crumpled the note and threw it away. My phone rang. It was my mother. "Your father told me what happened," she said without preamble. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You just bought your in-laws freedom and your wife left you. She needs space. She needs perspective," Mom corrected. "Come home for dinner, tonight." I hadn't been to my parents' house since the wedding. They lived an hour north, on 200 acres of land that had been in our family for 4 generations. The main house was built in 1847, added onto over the years until it sprawled across the hilltop like a small village. Mom was waiting on the front steps when I arrived. She hugged me tightly, the way she had when I was young and scared. "Your father's in the study," she said. "Go talk to him." Dad was reading by the fireplace. He looked up when I entered, took off his glasses, and pointed to the chair across from him. "Whiskey?" he offered. "Please." He poured 2 glasses and handed me one. We sat in silence for a moment. "Your mother thinks I should tell you the story of how we met," he finally said. I'd heard it before. They'd met at a charity gala. Love at first sight. Married within a year. The real story, he added. I leaned forward. Your mother's family was old money, like ours. But she didn't want to marry me for my name or my trust fund. She wanted to marry me for me. So she pretended to be poor. I nearly dropped my glass. What? She got a job as a waitress at a diner. Cut off her family. Lived in a studio apartment. When we met, I thought she was struggling to make ends meet. I fell in love with her work ethic, her independence, her refusal to take handouts. How long did she keep it up? 3 years. We were engaged before she told me. I was furious, felt betrayed, felt like an idiot for not seeing it. What did you do? Almost called off the wedding. But then I realized something. She'd given up everything to be with me. Her family cut her off for those 3 years. She worked 60-hour weeks when she could have been traveling the world. All because she wanted me to love her for her, not her money. That's different, I said. Tessa didn't give up anything. She just believed her parents when they said I was poor. True, Dad agreed. But consider this. She's pregnant with your child. Her parents just revealed themselves to be criminals and manipulators. And you're asking her to choose between the family she's known her whole life and the husband who's been lying to her, even if by omission. You're saying I should forgive her? I'm saying you should talk to her. Really talk. Not with attorneys and spreadsheets and power plays. Just you and her, being honest about what you want from this marriage. I stayed for dinner. Mom made pot roast, my favorite. We didn't talk about Tessa or the money or any of it. We just ate and laughed, and I remembered what it felt like to be part of a family that didn't keep score. When I got home, Tessa was sitting on the couch. She'd been crying. I came back, she said. I don't want space. I want to fix this. I sat down beside her, leaving distance between us. Okay, talk to me. I've been thinking about everything, about how my parents acted, about how I acted, about the prenup and the wedding and all of it. And I realize I've been incredibly naive. I thought their generosity was love. I thought their protection was care. But it was control. They controlled the narrative about you, about us, about our future. And I let them. Why? She wiped her eyes. Because it was easier than thinking for myself. They always had opinions, always had plans, and I just went along with it. Even when something felt wrong, like that prenup, I told myself they knew better. Do you still think that? No. I think they knew what was best for them. Not for me, not for us. I reached over and took her hand. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about the money sooner. I thought I had good reasons. But maybe I was wrong. Why didn't you tell me? I'd been thinking about this question for days. Because people change when they know. They treat you differently. They want things from you. And I wanted someone to want me, not my bank account. I did want you, she said softly. I do want you. The man who works at a bookstore and drives a Honda and takes ceramics classes. That's who I fell in love with. That man is real, I said. The money doesn't change who I am, but it does change how people see me. I'm seeing you now, she said. All of you. And I want to try again, but different this time. No more secrets. No more letting my parents dictate our lives. Just us. I pulled her close. She rested her head on my chest. I want that too, I said. The next few months were not easy. Tessa's parents signed the papers and made their public apology. The local news covered it. Their friends stopped calling. Her mother's book club expelled her. Her father's golf buddies found new partners. They blamed me, of course. Called me vindictive. Said I'd destroyed their reputation to punish them for the prenup. The truth didn't matter to them. It never had. Tessa started therapy. Individual sessions twice a week to work through her family dynamics and her own complicity in their behavior. I joined her for couples counseling once a week. In one session, our therapist asked what we wanted our marriage to look like. Tessa answered first. I want honesty, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And you? The therapist asked me. I want partnership, real partnership, where we make decisions together, not based on what her parents think or what my money can buy, but on what's actually best for us and our child. That's beautiful, the therapist said. Now how do we get there? It started small. We moved out of our apartment into a house we chose together. Not the one her parents wanted to buy us. Not a mansion from my trust fund. A normal 3-bedroom house in a good school district. We paid for it equally, 50-50, using a mortgage like regular people. Tessa quit her job at her uncle's marketing firm, found a new position at a company where no one knew her family. She had to prove herself on her own merits. It was hard, but she was good at it. I kept my bookstore job, but started doing more work for my family's foundation, reviewing grant applications, meeting with nonprofits, learning the business side of generational wealth. We set boundaries with Tessa's parents. They could see us once a month for Sunday dinner. No surprise visits, no financial advice, no commentary on our choices. If they broke the rules, the visits stopped. They broke the rules constantly. Her mother would show up with unrequested baby items. Her father would make passive-aggressive comments about how I'd stolen his business. We enforced the boundaries. Sometimes we didn't see them for 2 or 3 months. Tessa struggled with it. She'd been conditioned her entire life to prioritize their feelings over her own, but slowly she started building her own identity separate from them. The baby came in August. A girl. We named her Violet, after my grandmother who'd established our family foundation. Tessa's parents weren't at the hospital. They'd been placed on limited contact after her mother tried to hire a nanny without asking us. My parents came, though. They brought flowers and books and a hand-knitted blanket my mother had made. They held Violet carefully, made appropriate comments about how beautiful she was, and left after 2 hours without being asked. Your mom is really nice, Tessa said after they'd gone. She didn't try to tell me how to breastfeed or criticize my birth plan or anything. She respects boundaries, I said. It's possible. When Violet was 3 months old, Tessa's father called. The business was doing well under new management, better than it ever had when he ran it. They'd paid back $400,000 already. He wanted to take us to dinner to celebrate. We went. It was awkward but civil. Her father actually apologized for real this time, without qualifiers or excuses. I was wrong, he said. About everything. The prenup, the wedding, the way I treated you. I was so obsessed with looking successful that I became a criminal, and I almost lost my daughter because of it. Her mother nodded. We're in therapy now, individual and couples. It's helping. That's good, Tessa said carefully. We know we have a long way to go, her father continued. And we know you don't owe us forgiveness, but we want you to know we're trying. It wasn't much, but it was something. By the time Violet turned 1, we'd established a new normal. Sunday dinners once a month, video calls twice a week so they could see their granddaughter. Boundaries that mostly held. Tessa's parents would never be wealthy again. They lived in a modest condo and drove practical cars. They both still worked for the company, which I'd renamed and rebranded. They earned salaries appropriate to their positions and skills, nothing more. The humbling had been good for them, I think. Her father was less arrogant. Her mother was less materialistic. They were learning to find value in things beyond money and status. As for Tessa and me, we were learning too. Learning to trust each other. Learning to build a life based on honesty instead of assumptions. Learning that wealth wasn't about money, but about knowing what truly mattered. One evening, after we'd put Violet to bed, Tessa and I sat on our back porch watching the sunset. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Helping them? Staying with me? I thought about it. No. But I regret how long it took us to be honest with each other. Me too. She leaned against my shoulder. Can I ask you something? Anything. That spreadsheet you kept, with all the money they spent. Did you really track it all from the beginning, or did you make it up to prove a point? I smiled. I really tracked it. From the first dinner they insisted on paying for. I knew eventually they'd expect something in return. People who keep score always do. That's kind of cynical. That's kind of realistic. She was quiet for a moment. I'm glad you kept track. It made them take you seriously in a way nothing else would have. Your father only understands money, so I spoke his language. And now I speak our language, the one we're building together. Violet started crying from her room. Tessa stood up. Your turn. I went inside and picked up my daughter. She immediately stopped crying and grabbed my finger with her tiny hand. This little person who existed because Tessa and I had decided to build something together, despite everything trying to tear us apart. You know what, Violet? I whispered. Your grandparents did me a favor with that prenup. It showed me exactly who I was marrying into, and it gave me leverage when I needed it most, she cooed, having no idea what I was talking about. But here's what I'm going to teach you, I continued, sitting in the rocking chair. Money doesn't make you better than anyone else, but it does give you choices, and the most important choice is who you become with it. Tessa appeared in the doorway. Telling her your philosophy already? Starting early. She needs to know she's more than her trust fund. She also needs to know she has a trust fund, Tessa pointed out. No more secrets, remember? I smiled. When she's old enough to understand it, we'll tell her everything. About her grandparents' mistakes, about mine, about how we fixed them. Think we did fix them? I think we're still fixing them. Every day. That's what marriage is. Tessa came and sat on the arm of the rocking chair. The therapist asked me something in our last session. What? She asked if I would have married you if I'd known about your money from the beginning. What did you say? I said I honestly don't know. And that scared me, because it meant I married you partially because I thought we were the same. Both struggling, both ordinary. And now that you know we're not, now I know we're both just people. You happen to have a lot of money. I happen to have parents who are in recovery from being terrible. Neither of those things defines us. I like that answer better than the first one. Me too. We sat together in the nursery, our daughter falling asleep in my arms, and I thought about the journey that had brought us here, the prenup that had started it all, the secrets that had almost ended it, the choice to fight for something real instead of settling for something comfortable. I love you, Tessa said quietly. I love you too. Even though I let my parents treat you like garbage for 3 years, even though you're not them, you proved that when you chose us over them. It's still hard sometimes, seeing them so diminished, knowing I'm part of why. You're not the reason they're diminished. Their choices did that. You just stopped enabling them. She nodded. The therapist said something similar. I stood up carefully and laid Violet in her crib. She barely stirred. We stood there for a moment, watching her sleep. She's going to have a different life than I did, Tessa said. She'll grow up knowing her worth isn't in what she can do for other people. And she'll grow up knowing money is a tool, not an identity. Think we can pull that off? I think we can try. We walked back to our bedroom. Tomorrow I had a foundation meeting. Tessa had a presentation at work. Violet had her first music class. We had Sunday dinner with my parents in the evening. Normal life. Rich or poor, it all came down to the same things. Work, family, love, trying to be better than you were yesterday. As I fell asleep that night, I thought about my father-in-law's phone call from all those months ago. We need to talk, he'd said, his voice small and desperate. I could have let them fall, could have walked away and let the legal system handle it. Part of me had wanted to, but then I would have become them. Someone who kept score, someone who valued revenge over relationships, someone who used money as a weapon instead of a tool. The prenup had been their weapon. They'd used it to keep me in my place, to protect themselves from someone they saw as beneath them. I'd turned it into a shield instead, protected myself, protected my assets, protected my future with Tessa. And then I'd done what they couldn't. I'd shown mercy without losing myself. I'd helped without being taken advantage of. I'd found the line between doormat and dictator and walked it carefully. It wasn't perfect. Some days Tessa still struggled with guilt over her parents. Some days I still felt the sting of those 3 years of casual disrespect. Some days we fought about money or boundaries or whose turn it was to change diapers. But we were building something real, something that would last, something our daughter could be proud of. The prenup was still valid, technically, sitting in a file somewhere protecting their $2.3 million from me. I could have it dissolved now, Tessa would sign anything I asked, but I kept it. A reminder of where we'd started, of how far we'd come. Besides, it made me laugh every time I thought about it. They'd been so certain they needed to protect themselves from me, never imagining I'd be the one protecting them in the end. Money reveals character. That's what my grandmother used to say. It doesn't create it or change it. It just shows you what was always there. Tessa's parents' money had revealed their insecurity, their greed, their willingness to commit fraud to maintain appearances. My money had revealed my patience, my ability to play the long game, my understanding that sometimes the best revenge is letting someone have exactly what they asked for. And our daughter's money, the trust fund we'd set up for her, would reveal nothing yet. She was too young, but someday she'd face her own tests, her own moments where wealth could make her cruel or kind, petty or generous, suspicious or trusting. I hoped we were teaching her the right lessons, about humility and boundaries, and the difference between being nice and being good. Time would tell. For now, I had everything I needed. A wife who was learning to trust herself, a daughter who was healthy and happy, parents who respected us, in-laws who were slowly becoming better people, and a prenup protecting $2.3 million from me. Best investment they ever made. 6 years passed. Violet started kindergarten. Tessa made partner at her firm. I took over as director of our family foundation. My in-laws paid back the last of what they owed. On the anniversary of the day I'd signed the prenup, Tessa and I had a tradition. We'd open a bottle of wine, pull out the document, and read it aloud. "Do you want to dissolve it this year?" she'd ask. "Not yet," I'd say. "It's too funny." This year was different. This year, her father called and asked if he could join us for the reading. We said yes. He arrived with a bottle of wine that cost more than he should have spent. "I've been saving," he explained, "for this." We sat in our living room, the prenup between us. "I want to apologize," he said, properly this time, "for making you sign this, for treating you like you were beneath us, for being so blinded by our own fragile egos that we couldn't see who you really were." "Apology accepted," I said. "You've shown me through your actions that you've changed." "I have changed," he agreed. "The company is thriving. We're clean with the IRS. Your CFO says I've become a decent manager now that I'm not cooking the books." "High praise from Gerald," I said. "He doesn't compliment easily." "I want to buy back my company," her father said suddenly. Tessa's head whipped around. "What? I've been saving. Every penny I don't need for basic living. I have $780,000 now. I know it's not enough for 51%, but maybe we could negotiate a smaller percentage? 10%? 5%? Anything." I looked at Tessa. She was staring at her father with an expression I couldn't read. "Why?" I asked. "Because it's mine," he said simply. "Or it was. I built it from nothing, and I destroyed it with my greed. But these past 6 years, working under your management, I've remembered why I started it in the first place. I love the work, the creativity of designing events, the satisfaction of executing them perfectly. I want to own that again, even just a piece." "What do you think?" I asked Tessa. "I think," she paused. "I think it's your decision. It's your company now." "Our company," I corrected. "Everything I have is ours. That's what partnership means." She smiled. "Then I think we should sell it back to him. Not 5%, not 10%, all of it." Her father's eyes went wide. "I can't afford $780,000, I interrupted. "That's what you've saved. That's what it costs." "But the company is worth $4.2 million now," he protested. "You've doubled its value. That wouldn't be fair to you." "Fair?" I laughed. "You wanted me to sign a prenup protecting your $2.3 million from me. I think we're past fair. I don't understand." I stood up and walked to my desk, pulled out a folder I'd been keeping for years. "I need you to understand something. I never wanted your company. I wanted you to learn what it felt like to lose control, to work for someone else, to have your worth determined by your performance, not your name. I did learn that. I know. Your work shows it. Gerald's reports show it. The company's success shows it. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to buy back your company for $780,000. You're going to sign a contract saying you'll never commit fraud again, and you're going to name Tessa to your board of directors." Her father looked at Tessa. "You'd do that? Serve on the board after everything?" "If we're doing this," Tessa said, "we're doing it right. With oversight. With accountability. With family that actually functions like family." He started crying. Not the angry tears from when I'd first confronted him. These were different. Grateful. Humble. Real. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you both." We signed the papers that night. The company went back to him, with conditions and oversight and Tessa's involvement. After he left, Tessa turned to me. "That was generous. That was strategic," I corrected. "If we'd kept it, you'd have felt obligated to run it someday. This way, it's his problem. His success or failure, we're free of it. Still generous. Maybe I'm getting soft in my old age. You're 32. Ancient." She laughed and kissed me. Should we finally dissolve the prenup? I thought about it. One more year, for old times' sake. But the next year, when the anniversary came, I'd changed my mind. "Let's keep it," I said. "Forever." "Why?" "Because it's a reminder of what we survived, of what we built despite it, of how something meant to protect them from me ended up protecting us from them." Tessa picked up the document and read through it one more time. "You know what's funny? If we ever did get divorced, this prenup would protect exactly nothing. We've commingled everything. Joint accounts, joint property, joint life. Think we'll get divorced? Ask me again in another 6 years. That's not reassuring." "Good. Stay on your toes." I pulled her close. "I love you. Even though your parents tried to trap me with a prenup and then I had to buy their company to teach them a lesson about humility. I love you too. Even though you kept massive secrets from me and then used your money as a weapon when my family imploded. We're both terrible. We're both trying. And that was the truth of it. Marriage wasn't about being perfect. It was about being honest, about choosing each other every day despite the mistakes and the baggage and the complicated histories. Violet ran into the room, now 6 years old and full of questions. Daddy, is it true Grandpa used to be poor? I looked at Tessa. She shrugged. She asked. I told her the truth. Not exactly poor, I explained to Violet, but he made bad choices with money and had to learn to do better. Like when I spent all my allowance on candy and couldn't buy the book I wanted. Exactly like that, but with much bigger numbers. Did you help him learn? I tried to. That's nice of you. Sometimes being nice means being strict first. Does that make sense? She thought about it. Like when you make me do my homework before I can play? Just like that. She nodded, satisfied, and ran off to play with her toys. She's going to figure it all out eventually, Tessa said. Good, let her. No more secrets, remember? No more secrets. We stood together, watching our daughter play, the prenup forgotten on the table behind us. A relic of another time when we were different people making different choices. We'd kept the document, but we'd torn up everything it represented. That was the real victory. Not the money, not the company, not the revenge. The victory was standing here 6 years later, choosing each other despite every reason not to. The prenup had tried to predict our future, to protect against disaster, to plan for failure. But it couldn't account for growth, for change, for the possibility that two people could start from deception and build toward truth. That was the thing about prenups. They were contracts for divorce, signed at the moment of marriage. A hedge against love failing. We'd proved it wrong. Our love hadn't failed. It had struggled. It had fought. It had nearly broken, but it had survived. And that was worth more than any amount they'd tried to protect. Worth more than any trust fund I'd hidden. Worth more than any revenge I'd extracted. We were a family now. Messy, complicated, honest, finally honest. And I wouldn't change a thing.